Good morning, everybody, and welcome to
today's Go Green Driving and Thriving podcast.
We are happy to have you here today. We have some good subjects to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I'll hop right on into it. And this weekend we got the pleasure of going to a tree naming dedication ceremony.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
It was amazing. One of our very own is a very near and dear to our heart story, where we had a young lady in Castro Valley who was walking through a crosswalk, and unfortunately an inattentive / negligent driver turned left through the crosswalk and unfortunately hit her, and she didn't survive from the accident. So that young lady was honored and recognized, and her father has become, after the incident, one of our driving instructors, Dr. Lester Carlos, who is a fantastic instructor. And as a side note, he utilizes his passion for pedestrian safety and for driver awareness in his teachings. And they had a dedication at the library. They had a very special tree. Mike, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the tree.
Yeah, so the tree is a giant sequoia, but it's not just any giant sequoia. The seed actually launched on the Artemis mission.
That's right.
In November of 22, and it went around the moon.
That's right.
And Lana's nickname was Luna.
That's right.
And so the tree is the Lana Luna tree.
Lana Luna tree.
Yep. And so this is the only giant sequoia seed that California will get from the Artemis mission. So it's going to be a massive tree. Its lifespan can be up to 3,500 years.
Yep.
And we'll all be able to see it from the freeway or from our Jetson car.
Yeah, no, while we were at the ceremony, you actually mentioned that, Mike, and just the thought of what a great memorial, and a special shout out to the Forrester Group, the CHP, the folks down there at the library, all came together to make this happen. And the image of that tree just soaring into the sky and being, hundreds of feet tall, in our lifetime and beyond our lifetime is just something that's just a magnificent image, and really appropriate, for the situation, and just a great tribute.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us into our topic for the day is our pedestrian awareness.
Pedestrian awareness, man. It's something that's very, very has been near and dear to our hearts. I mean, my kids grew up here in Castro Valley, walking around in the streets, have had each of them, both of them together on separate occasions, have had numerous incidents in crosswalks, trying to do the right thing, follow the rules, and still drivers sometimes are just, what's the right word? I mean, just unaware. It's more than unaware. It's just unwilling to yield. I mean, it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you remember it was a couple years ago now, but we were doing some promotional stuff on our Instagram page, which is awesome. You can check that out.
Yeah.
But I went to go do a take to see how many times I could cross with with people not stopping.
And this is with a blinking yellow lit up crosswalk, right?
One try.
Right
in front of here in the high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't even expect it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm a pretty big target.
Yeah.
You could see me on the side of the street, and the lights are flashing. And halfway through the intersection, you just see a car go zoom, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I've watched, the sheriff department will set up sting operations, and they'll, park a few officers, ahead of the crosswalk in anticipation, and then they'll have some undercover officers crossing. And I've sat out there and just kind of observed to see, and I mean, people, mid-cross, right behind the officer, like right in front of them. And, fortunately at those times, the officers are right there ready to hand out those tickets, but it happens all the time, every day. I mean, just it's the level of awareness around pedestrian safety it's astonishing. It's crazy.
And it's a the main goal of a driver is to have a safe trip.
Yep.
You want to get to your position safely.
Yes.
And a pedestrian is on the same mission.
Yes.
And so the responsibility lies in the person in the 3-ton vehicle.
Correct.
Traveling at speeds that a human could never reach.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's one of the big points that we emphasize with our students. especially our younger students who, up to in their life up to that point, mostly are not the responsible party in any sort of situation. But now, as a driver of the vehicle, there may be an adult who's quite a bit older than them and should be aware and responsible, but maybe just crossing the street randomly in front of them, or so as a younger person, being the responsible party is an entirely new concept and not always processed well.
Yeah, and it's also like planning ahead and like thinking a couple steps ahead while you're driving, because like you say, you're going into a neighborhood where houses are on both sides. The likelihood of someone in the street is a lot higher.
Right.
And then if you're in the middle of a busy intersection, where crosswalks are defined and like everything's light signaled. But also, like on a street, you see the lines on the ground, like that means a person could cross there.
Correct.
And you have to yield to them.
Absolutely.
And that means you have to protect them, and also like by you stopping, it may also trigger the other car to stop too.
Correct.
Because then they can see your lights and they're gonna think, oh, why is this person stopping? And then they're gonna see the crosswalk, and then they're gonna be like, oh, okay. Person, because necessarily you might not see that person on the side of the road.
Correct.
There could be a parked car, parked truck, construction, anything. Like somebody could have something dangling from their rearview mirror where they can't see that person.
That's right.
But if they see your car stop, you could definitely protect somebody by stopping.
Yes, and that definitely, I want to go over a couple of technicality rules around crosswalks, and that brings up one of them. If somebody is stopped at a crosswalk and you're behind that person, you can't assume that person's going to be making a turn or anything like that. Sometimes it may look like that if the crosswalk in particular is in the middle of the road. As that person stopped, it may be tempting to go around that person, right? And in that case, you might come around quickly, and like you said, you might not see the person crossing, and as they step out from in front of the car that is stopped, there you come full speed. So that's one of the main rules is, as another driver, when you see someone stop at or close to a crosswalk, you have to make sure that you are 100% sure that there is not a pedestrian that you can't see. Could be a little kid, it could be a little old lady with a walker moving slow. We don't know what it is. So if you are going to pass, which is very dangerous, technically, you're supposed to pull up, stop at that crosswalk, make sure that you are able to observe, and if your view is obstructed, you can't proceed. You need to wait as well until that your view isn't obstructed, or that that you can see that is clearly open. So that's one of the rules. Maybe you can explain, Mike, what is it in terms of once? Okay, first of all, let's back up. How do you know as a driver that a pedestrian is intent on crossing? What is it? What is the pedestrian's responsibility to communicate to the driver?
So the pedestrian's responsibility is to show a willingness to cross.
All right.
I always, like in my teaching while I'm doing the lessons, I say it's an 80-20 responsibility split.
Okay.
80% of the responsibility is on the driver to stop.
I like that.
The 20% is for the pedestrian. You're not playing on your phone, you're not looking down, you're looking both ways, you're standing looking like you're gonna walk across. Like if you're turned around, of course the person, like you're not gonna Michael Jackson moonwalk across the thing.
Correct.
So they assume you're not gonna go, but if you decide oh, I'm gonna take a step, spin out, it's very difficult for a driver to infer someone facing that wrong direction.
Correct.
Yeah. So like that 80-20. But if anyone's there, you gotta slow down.
You gotta slow down.
Yeah,
you have to assume. You have to assume they're gonna go.
Yeah, and especially if they're young, especially around schools. Some of the schools have crossing guards, which I think every school should have.
Absolutely.
But if they don't have a crossing guard, it's I remember walking to school, I didn't have a crossing guard. And my mom was scared to death.
Kids are goofy. Crossing guard, no crossing guard, kids are just, they don't, this frontal lobe, whatever it is you want to call it, but they'll make irrational decisions and just, they're walking down the street, oh, there's my friend, boop, they just bolt across the street without even looking. And these are middle school kids I'm talking about. I've had them, taking my kids back and forth to school, a lot of near misses, and that's with me being 100% attentive, being aware exactly what you're saying, like, okay, this could happen at any second, and man, it does. And that's, as a driver, kind of goes back to what we were talking about the other day in terms of attentiveness on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot look down at your phone, you cannot adjust the radio when you're driving around kids, which is most of the time in any sort of city. You got to have that high level of awareness and not be distracted at any point.
Absolutely, and I'm going to go over a couple little things that our state and local governments have done to try to protect pedestrians.
Yep.
And I'm sure most of these people and most of our listeners are comfortable with these things, but there's a few that like some cities have that some don't.
True.
So like we're all comfortable with the one where the lights are flashing on the ground.
Yes.
And like the pedestrian pushes the button, the lights start flashing. It lets everyone know in every direction that those people are crossing
actively.
Yeah, actively crossing. They're like it shows your intention, and it to a large effect it has been very successful.
Yes.
And there's also the like in front of high schools. In some cities, they have those flashing yellow lights over the crosswalks.
Yes.
That a flashing yellow light means proceed with caution.
Yes, right.
Yes, so it means proceed with caution, but it's also kind of like highlighting, like, hey, there could be people crossing here.
Right.
And then, as we've seen in the last couple of years, San Leandro specifically on East 14th and on Davis Street has introduced the pedestrian stoplight.
Yes.
And this is something I'm really, really interested in. And if you guys have any comments about it, please let us know. But it's actually like a stoplight with 3 lights. The top 2, when the pedestrian pushes the button, flash red like this, back and forth. And then once like the timer for the warning, I guess it would be, goes, then it turns a solid red, and you're supposed to stop there and wait until the pedestrian's all the way across. Then the light will flash again, and then you can proceed.
I really like that. In my opinion, we should have more things on the road that are absolutely definitive, right? So a yellow flashing light, right, just the old school ones, the slow, steady blinking, that just, I'm almost ignoring that. I'm looking around pretty quick and I'm going through that. The fast blinking ones get my attention. I realize that's an active one, but it's still a yellow light. Yeah. So it's kind of, right, I'm not mandated to stop. Like, it's just I need to yield kind of when that's going on. But the red, right? There's no question.
Everybody knows what the red means. Everybody
knows what the red means. So I really like that one. And hopefully we see, more things kind of like that around for pedestrian safety. I mean, it's just there just can't be left any gray area, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then another thing that we can go over is what classifies as a pedestrian.
Absolutely. So I checked, right, the driver's handbook here, and the definition as in the handbook is anybody who is not on a vehicle or a bicycle, right? So somebody walking, obviously, somebody skating, a skateboard, a scooter, a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair, if someone's disabled, all these things fall into the classification of pedestrian. Yeah. And so to kind of wrap things up today, I would like to pose a question to the audience. Is an electric scooter considered a vehicle, or is the rider considered a pedestrian? That is our question for the week. Please take a moment to answer in the comments, and anybody who answers correctly is going to get a swag bag, including one of our sweet Go Green mugs. We have a nice travel bag, some pens, pair of sunglasses. We're going to put that all together for you. So again, the question is an electric scooter considered a pedestrian or a vehicle?
Yeah. And thank you guys for watching, and please remember to like and subscribe.
Absolutely. And remember, go safe
and go green.